Moshe makes a distinction what we call emes kapei shmaya and emes lahara.
Right.
Emes kapei shmaya is the real truth that God knows. Emes lahara is the truth that I figure out for psak, which incorporates my human thinking. Because God really knows whether this piece of meat is from a pig or not. God really knows that. What I'm asked to do is to paskin if it's kosher, which is me trying to determine, pursuant to the law, of whether it can be eaten or not. And kosher, it may be that kosher may define this piece of meat, of this piece of pork, as kosher because of the question that we really don't know its source. So if you have 3 pieces of meat and you say batal b'rov, 2 are kosher, 1 wasn't kosher, and they got all mixed up, you know which is which, all 3 pieces of meat can be eaten. Even you know for sure that one of them is from a non-kosher source, because kosher is a legal term. Okay? So the point is once you have a psak that is kosher, it's kosher. But that's an example. It incorporates the lack of knowledge that human beings have. In addition to that, it also incorporates the fact that there's emes lahara, and that's where he starts talking about the Tanur Shafnai, that the point is that you basically, the whole argument of whether this oven was really tummy or not, the point is you have to make the determination pursuant to your reasoning. And human reasoning is the way we make decisions. And that's called emes lahara. It's not saying it's absolutely the truth. It's saying that this is the determination pursuant to my thinking of what I think is the correct understanding of the law. Okay? Okay, so he says over here, and then he says, if you look inside, okay, we're in the 2nd paragraph. Okay, so he says that a person has to learn through it, and he does it correctly with all his mind and all his intent, and he's able to do these type of things. He says it, and he comes out to what he thinks is really the psak din. Okay, and he says that's emes lahara, and he's mechuyev l'choretz kain. If you look, I'm reading at the end of the 5th line in the 2nd paragraph. Kain av im be'etzem gali kapei shmaya she'enu kain u'perush. Okay, even though God knows that it's not actually correct, that this piece of meat that you're saying is kosher is not really, is not actually scientifically kosher. But the point is your decision is based upon legal principles, analysis, and so forth. And this we say, these words, this conclusion is also called the words of Divrei Elokim Chaim, can be translated 2 ways: the words of the living God, okay, or the living words of God. Okay, because this seems to be the way he should paskin, and he doesn't see a contradiction to his ways. And he'll get rewarded for his decision, even though the actual truth isn't correct, because this is the way God wants it, for us to be involved, to make decisions, and to apply our legal reasoning and our human weaknesses, and the reality of our human weaknesses. And there's a and there's a proof to this. It says, I'm Rabbi Yitzchak. Ir achas, and there's a tremendous proof to this. If we were on Shabbos, Ir achas hayta be'eretz Yisrael. And this is trying to show you the belief in different opinions. I know we were talking before off camera about different opinions. Watch this Gemara. It's a Gemara in Shabbos. Okay? There was a city in Eretz Yisrael. Shahaya Osen ka Rabbi Eliezer. They held like Rabbi Eliezer. It's a machlokas by Mila. We say that Mila is Deichu Shabbos, right? Which means that you can do a Mila on Shabbos, because the actual act of Mila is actually a malacha. Because it's masaking the kid. Okay, it's considered to be a malacha. Okay, and also because you're causing damage. I mean, there's a lot of reasons to say that cutting the kid is a malacha. Okay. That act is mutter because Mila is Docha Shabbos. That's the shita. That was the general shita, and that's where we paskin. Rabbi Eliezer held though that not only is the act of Mila Docha Shabbos, any necessary activity for the Mila is Docha Shabbos. So you can carry the Mila knife in Rishus Rabim according to Rabbi Eliezer. Okay? In other words, if you're doing something for the Mila, according to Rabbi Eliezer, it's mutter. Other people say no. The only thing that's mutter is the actual act of Mila. Now, after the kid's been mauled, then you can do a lot of things because the kid's defined as in Sakamas Nefashos. Okay, so therefore the issue is like this: if after the Mila, you can warm up water because you need it for the
sterilization.
Afterwards you need it for the baby to clean it. So you need hot water for the baby to clean. So you're allowed to boil water, but that's because the baby has a din of Sakanas Nefashos, and Sakanas Nefashos is Deichel Shabbos. However, okay. If it's before the Mila, you can't do things in preparation of the Mila. So you can't bring. No. If you say your knife is not sterilized, you can't sterilize the knife because you're about to do Mila.
Wow.
Okay. However, what?
So how would you do Mila then if you don't have a knife?
You can't do it. If you can't do Mila, you don't do it. The only thing that's permitted is the act of Mila. Rabbi Eliezer doesn't hold that way. Rabbi Eliezer held that anything necessary for the Mila is Deichel Shabbos. Okay?
Well, she said like it's spoke about like with a sock, and if you have to, that's like a pagam on it, but you're allowed to, you shaft for either a sick person or a mitzvah or something specific for Shabbos.
No. That's something.
You cover it.
What?
So you don't actually fix it. You just work around it.
The point you're just trying to say how you do, but the fact is the only malacha that's mutter in Mila is the act of Mila. Okay, before the Mila. Okay, Rabbi Eliezer did not hold that way. He held that any act necessary in preparation for the Mila is Deichel Shabbos. So he says like that. So there was one city who held like Rabbi Eliezer. Okay, but not in Lehem HaKadosh Baruch Hu schar gadol. Okay. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave them a tremendous reward. Shemesu b'zmanam, okay. Shemasu b'zmanam. There was a great reward that happened to them. Because Zera Malchus or Rishak Zera Alamila, when the I guess it was the Roman government, or the government came down and said it's usher to do Mila, Lo Gazra al Ota Ha'ir. They didn't do that Zera on that city. So here you had. Now think about this. You had the whole world being machmer, not like Rabbi Eliezer. You had this one city, paskin le Rabbi Eliezer, basically the kula, and saying you can do these acts on Shabbos. Okay? So the point is, Rav Moshe is trying to say this is what Elu Ve'elu means. That this city who follows Rabbi Eliezer, because they held that, because they followed that's he paskin for that city, and they followed their Rav. They followed for that city. And to them, this was the halacha, and they decided the halacha correctly because this was the Rav's psak. It says they were rewarded that the whole world, all the people who were machmir, had to face this gzeres hamelach that they couldn't do Mila, right? On the pain of death, there was a real come down hard on Mila. But this city didn't have the it did not follow it. Even though the actual psak halacha that went that came down to the ages is not like Rabbi Eliezer. Okay? Even though it would be a chiyav mezid. If someone did this today, you can't possibly Rabbi Eliezer today because there's a psak. But the point is, back then, okay, this city possibly Rabbi Eliezer, and they could possibly Rabbi Eliezer. So the truth is, it's not you can't apply simplistic black and white, right and wrong. There are shitas, okay, and the shitas are all filtered through the human mind. Rabbi Eliezer felt this was correct with his human mind, and Chachamim felt that was correct. And if you follow Rabbi Eliezer because he was your Rav, and this was a psak for your city, okay, then you were totally correct. And not only that, These people obviously had a lot of listen, and the fact is that even though according to everyone else what they were doing was a chi of skila, right? According to everyone else, elu ve'elu, this is to be respected. Amad the emes hara shemechuyev haros, the emes hara that you have to abide by. That's your decision. The gamba kabel scarfu, and you get scar for it. Kefisha sover hachacham achrei iyuna b'chol kocho, because the person paskening, the chacham, the wise person paskening, used all his power, all his strength to come to this conclusion. Ach she'emes mamash came, even though aliba de shmaya, okay, kalpei shmaya, this may not have been the real truth. This applies to every aspect of a machlokas. One person asers, one person maters. As long as nothing was accepted throughout Klal Yisrael as a community, this is the psak. There was no final conclusion. Every person, every Rav could paskin in his place. Kamosha Sover, according to the way he came down, he thinks. Even though there's going to be one who's absolutely got it right. Kalpei Shmaya. But the fact is for us, we're working in the human world. And the human world is full of machlokas. And the two Rabbanim who made this psak, the opposite psaks, they're both makabel schar, because that's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants. It's a very important idea that Moshe says keeps going back to makabel schar, because he's basically telling you, okay, and I point this out, he's really telling you the value of the process. It's not just about getting it right, okay? It's not just about getting it right and living with the fact that since we can never get it right because we're only human beings, God accepts our inabilities. It's not like, well, what can I do? I can't get the right thing, so I try this. By the fact that Moshe is saying Makabel Schar, he's telling you this is what God wants you to do. This is the way God created the situation. It's very, very important. Moshe is going to go into an issue, okay, of saying, why is this so? Okay? To most people, the idea being is, you're trying to get it right, we're only human beings, we can't get it right, so we accept Elu Ve'elu. Moshe is not doing that. Moshe is saying, listen, this seems to be the way God intended it.
Right.
He wants the human being involved. He wants human thought involved. Human beings are not perfect, but He wants them involved. And if you're doing it to the best of your ability, that's what God wants.
Okay, right.
And if you get two different conclusions, that's okay also.
So this is just further, because we mentioned in the previous year.
Yeah.
It's just the proof inside.
This is it. This is real. V'tamzeh matzinu harbe chalukim gam b'yisurim chamurim, and this is why we see so many different opinions, even on very serious averos. Ben mekomos hanoheges oras karambam b'beis Yosef, or ben mekomos hanoheges oras k'chachmei atosos v'roah. It's basically saying over here. And this is why you have such deviant, not deviant, like, I'm not saying problematic, but
deviant as in like
different, right? That difference between Sephardim and Ashkenazi. A lot of people think a mistake that the only difference between Sephardim and Ashkenazi is minhag. It's not minhag. The minhag is who you're going to paskin like. But the fact is that you have major disagreements of halacha on what Moshe is saying in real issues. And he's saying Sephardim paskin this, and Ashkenazim paskin like this, and if a Sephardi acts like an Ashkenazi, then that could be a real avera, and if an Ashkenazi acts like a Sephardi, it could be a real avera. I mean, it gets into issues how you can switch between them. The point is, what he's trying to say is that the original machlokas was not just, let's do it this way, let's do it that way. It was a real machlokas in halacha. The Rambam paskin A, and the Ashkenazim paskin B. Okay? Like one example might be the definition of glat. Okay? We hold that glat, the actual concept of glat is, it's talking specifically, like, not the way glat is used nowadays. The glat is used for many different forms, but the actual glat is from smooth. came from the fact that you checked the lungs to see if the lungs, the lungs are smooth. The reason for that issue is like this: is if you've got a hole in the lung, right, then the animal's treif. Okay, so if you blow up the lungs and put it in water and you see some bubbles, the animal's treif because it means the lung has holes in it. Okay, that's a treif animal. Why? Because the animal can't live with a hole in its lungs. What happens though is animals
eat everything.
No. That's why they get holes.
Right.
But animals can, the same way with our skin. You cut your skin, you get scar tissue, whatever it is. So the point is, if the hole in the lungs reseals, the animal gets better, repairs himself. Is that animal kosher or not? So it's a machlokas Rishonim.
Really?
There's some Rishonim who hold, no, the animal's not kosher. Once the animal is treif, it's treif. So even though it fixes itself, it develops scar tissue, the fact is that it doesn't have the hole anymore. It's still treif. And the way you check for that is by checking the skin of the lungs, checking the side of the lungs. Okay. Others held no. Once it corrects itself, it's kosher. Glad kosher was never having a hole. Okay? Now,
that's very hard.
Yeah, so we hold, so glad kosher, we talk about being chumrah, stuff like that. Yeah, it's true, it's nice being chumrah. But the truth of the matter is that's the reason it's a chumrah is because it was a machlokas Rishonim. Some Rishonim held that if it had a hole, even if it got scar tissue, it's still aser. And other people hold that that if it corrected itself, it isn't. Now, the truth of the matter is, if I remember correctly, Sfardim Paskin that only glad kosher is kosher. So the way Yosef says is that if it has scar tissue, it's not kosher. Okay? The Ramah Paskins that it's kosher. Okay?
What
then
meat do we have that's made kosher? We don't have other meat that's not kosher. Do we?
No, nowadays everything's glad kosher. But the fact of the matter is, glad kosher nowadays has a different time. But the fact is that what's being said is, with this definition of glad, is according to the Ramah, according to Beis Yosef, only glad kosher meat is kosher. According to the Ramah, meat with a sircha, which is a scab on its lungs, is still kosher. It didn't have a hole at the time of the shechita. So the point is Ramosh is basically referring to a law like that. So according to the Ramah, meat which the Beis Yosef hold. It's actually Rashba, but the fact is that meat which the Sfardim hold to be aser is mutter to Ashkenazim. Okay? So it's not just minhagim and stuff like that. The minhagim developed because there were really differences in halacha. So that's what he's talking about here. He's talking about the fact that there were chalukim in the halacha, okay, between Sfardim and Ashkenazim on real halachic issues. Okay? Okay? But we look at it and say, we encourage everyone to follow their minhag. With minhag being not just custom, but their minhag of psak. What law? The same way Ramosha most likely would say that city, it was their minhag to paskin, to follow the psak of Rabbi Eliezer. So he's saying that, he says, V'shneim heim divrei Elokim chayim. Both Sfardim and Ashkenazim equal value as Torah. Even though only one most likely is correct. Okay? But the point, what it basically means is most likely, it's a little bit difficult when you're talking in legal reasoning. But the theory would be that God meant one or the other. In other words, when God said the definition of what's kosher, He meant either, once it has a hole, it really is always going to be treif, or if it corrects itself, it's not going to be treif. So the point is that there's an idea that God had something in mind, like one thing in mind. Then we're trying to figure it out. Now that argument is a little bit problematic because God Himself might have had different things in mind. It's not so clear cut that God had one thing in mind. But
so it could be that He didn't isn't just one way you're saying. Or it could be that it has one way and we're trying to figure it out, but it's why would it be so left open to just figuring it out?
Because the fact is obviously was God's intent to leave it open. And it's hard to talk about God this way. You know, I started reading a book by this guy, Judge Bork. Judge Bork was a guy who was appointed to the Supreme Court by Ronald Reagan. And he wasn't affirmed by the his nomination was rejected by the Senate. The Senate wouldn't affirm him, wouldn't confirm him. And the reason for it is because Judge Bork's attitude about the Constitution was, you got to read it as the people who wrote it intended it. So when you read it, this is the law, and this is it. Now the way I'm reading I started reading Bork's book, and Bork's saying, what is law? Law is trying to figure out what the legislators meant when they wrote this law. Okay, it's not up to me to say. But he's saying it's not up to me to figure out what it should be law. Like he gives an example. Which this is an issue in law in general. He says two great American justices, Oliver Wendell Holmes and Leonard Hand, were together one day, and then one said to the other, okay, he said, I think it was as Justice Holmes was going off his carriage, Justice Hand yelled at him, "Do justice! Remember, always do justice!" And Oliver Wendell Holmes, I think, stopped his carriage and said, "It's not my job to do justice. It's the job of the legislature to ensure that the laws are just. My job is to express the law as it's presented to me. That's my job as a judge." And that's Bork's position. Bork's position is, my idea is to define the law as it is. What did the people writing law mean? And that is an issue when you're dealing with human minds. When Thomas Jefferson wrote the Declaration of Independence, when they worked out the American Constitution, those guys who wrote it had something in mind. So what did they mean? Okay. And that's what he says is my job, and that's the job of any judge. What did the people who drafted this law mean? Okay. The problem with applying that to HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the fact that HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows everything. And he knows how human beings are going to come up with all these ideas. And if HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not exact in saying over the law, right, then it's hard to say what did God really mean. It may have meant that God said, listen, I'm going to say this like this, and I know the human beings are going to interpret 17 different ways. And that's what I want. I want them to come up with different ways. The point is, though, is that if you say a certain behavior is absolutely correct, that God wants a certain behavior, then you get into issues where he's accepting deviations from that behavior because he wants the process. But I think Moshe is saying, maybe if you think, what did God really want? And then he was willing to forgo what he really wanted because he accepted the process. But the fact is I could sit there and say, no, he really wanted was the fact that since he knew human beings were going to interpret it differently, he's willing to say, listen, there's going to be 14 conclusions. So, but the way Moshe is saying it is almost as if it's like the way Lahavdil, this judge, is saying it about human legislation. The people who wrote the legislation meant something. Okay, then you have to try and understand what they mean. The fact is that the Torah accepts the various different understandings of what is meant, right? Okay, as Divrei Elokim Chaim, even if they didn't get the actual original intention of the creator of the law at first, which is the Kodesh Baruch Hu, but almost saying it in such a way as if there was one intent of Kodesh Baruch Hu wanted to say with the law. I'm just saying I have difficulty with that because Kodesh Baruch Hu, and you're going to see something a little bit later, Kodesh Baruch Hu, if he had, obviously said it that way because he knew a human being would interpret it different ways.
Why do we have Deraisa or Derabanan to begin with? Why is Deraisa such a big deal if it's Lo B'Shem Torah, Lo B'Shem Ma'ayin?
No. Deraisa is, You understand, Doraisa and Drabanan, we talked about that before, but it's an important idea. Doraisa is the law that comes from Torah's Baruch Hu, the law of the Torah. The Rabbanan is legislated laws.
Right.
The Rabbanan making decisions judicially about Doraisa law is Doraisa. So when you have this argument with Rabbi Eliezer and the Rabbanan on whether you can do acts in you can be Mechal Shabbos in preparation of Milah. That's an argument in the Doraisa. It's not. It's the rabbis acting judicially, trying to figure out what the Doraisa law is.
Does that mean a Doraisa can change? Or?
The Doraisa has to be figured out. Yeah. In other words, you're trying to figure out what's the Doraisa law. Is the Doraisa law that when you say that Milah is Deicha Shabbos, does it just mean the act of Milah, or does it mean anything in preparation of a Milah, Deicha Shabbos? That was the Machlokas. So they have arguments back and forth. That's an argument judicially in the Doraisa law. But then there's legislative law, like chicken and milk can't be eaten together. That's a rabbinic legislation. Okay? Okay, we're going to end here at this paragraph.